So tonight we decided to have a pork roast for dinner, and it's going to be very traditional, old-fashioned German style pork roast. All I'm going to do, this is approximately, give and take, 3 pounds or maybe 1,200 grams, so a little bit over a kilogram. And it's a nice fatty pork roast, nice and marbled. So all I do is I put pepper, salt, and I'm going to be a bit generous. In the meantime, my oven is preheating and my pot is also preheating. I put about a tablespoon or so of sunflower oil into the pot. Any kind of oil with a hot burning point, a high burning point, so that I can sear the meat really nicely. And by the way, look at this lovely platter. Can you zoom in here? My friend Anita made that. Isn't that beautiful? In the meantime, let's go over to the stove and see if the oil is hot enough. Yeah, it's starting to make a bit of noise, so no worries. I'm going to put it on a high heat. This is a slow burner anyways. And so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to sear it from all sides, including the front and the back. And when it's slightly caramelized, slightly brown, I'll add some vegetables to it. And I'm using my trusty Suppengrün again, which I'm going to have to get out of the freezer. That's going to be put on the bottom, sort of as a resting point for the roast. Then the roast will go in the oven, and the vegetables afterwards make the most amazing sauce when they're pureed. So for now, you can hear how nicely it's. Come over here, Mr. Cameraman, and take a look how it's already bubbling away. So as you can see, can you see? Oh, this is nice and brown. I'm just gonna sear the end to end. Okay. And now we can take this off the heat. I have 2 packages. I'm just going to turn this down up here. I have 2 packages of Suppengrün, which is basically a mirepoix. So it's got onion, celery leaves, celeriac, parsnips, carrots, and I freeze that, and I have lots of these. But in Germany we call them Suppengrün. So, but I don't feel I have enough onions in there, so I peeled 1 medium onion. And I'm gonna just cut it roughly. Doesn't have to be really fancy or anything. And I'm gonna put the meat back onto my platter. Now, there's no concern about food safety here because the meat is not cooked. So I don't have to wash the platter yet. In the meantime, I turned the stove off because I don't want this splattering. So I'm going to put the onions in here and the frozen Suppengrün. Now I'm letting this thaw out a little bit, and it does a nicely job in the front of oven. And this is what it's going to look like. So can you come in a bit closer and take a look at what it looks like? Now it's all still frozen. And now I'm going to add some more salt. I'm going to add some more pepper. And there's plenty of liquid in there. And I'm going to put the roast right on top. And now it's going into the oven at 375 for at least a half an hour to look at it. And then after a half an hour, I have to add some spices to it. And possibly some water or maybe some wine. We'll see what we'll feel like today. So over to the oven we go. All right, so the pot has been in the oven for about an hour now. And this is what it looks like. If you want to zoom in here for a second, I'll come closer. These are all the cooked down vegetables. And this is the roast. So it's obviously not done yet, but I wish you could smell it because it really smells good. So at this point, I'm going to add 1 bay leaf, big one. And I have 4 large allspice. I always like bay leaf and allspice. And in German cooking, bay leaf and allspice seems to be in almost everything. I at least put it in everything. Now I'm going to adjust the seasoning. So more salt, and you can be quite generous with the salt. Now you could add some other stuff to it, like some hot pepper, or you could cover the roast in mustard. That would be yummy too. But I'm not doing that today. Or you could put caraway seeds in it as well. Now a neighbor down the street gave me this, and this is called Liebstöckel, also known as lovage. It smells really good. And he dried it, and he even gave me a plant. So this is to Mike and Stephanie, who gave me this dried Liebstöckel, and I'm going to put just a sprinkle over the vegetables. That gives it almost a little bit of a, I don't know, it's just a lovely taste it gives. And at this point I'm going to add a little bit, I would say about 200 milliliters of water, because I want the vegetables not to brown too much, but to cook, because they then will be my sauce. Oh, and my oven tells me it's time to go back. So here we go. The pot goes back into the oven, and next time I'll show it to you, it will be done. And then I'll just show you how to finish making the sauce, and it's just really, really easy. So here we go. Now this is super hot because this is also a cast iron pot. So back into the oven it goes for at least another hour, hour and a half. I'll let you know when I come back. So another hour has passed and the meat looks nicely cooked. And if you come closer here, you can see this, how brown this pot is. Now this is not burned. These are the good bits. So I take a nice wooden spoon and that wooden spoon, by the way, was a gift from Martin and Pam. Isn't that lovely? Anyway, so see how the liquid will take all these lovely brown bits. Don't miss out on those. And I'll just gently scrape them off the pot with my wooden spoon. And a wooden spoon is really the only way to go here. Otherwise you'll scratch your pot. And look how, and that adds a lot of flavor and color to the sauce. So now the sauce is still a little too liquid. So while the potatoes are on the stove, I'm going to put this back into the oven. 375 is still the temperature, which is roughly 191 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Anyway, so this time I'm going to put it back into the oven without the lid on, because I want the liquid to reduce. And if by any chance it reduces too much, we could perhaps put a little bit of white wine into it, but we'll see. So anyways, back it goes, 20 minutes maybe, and that's how long it would take for the potatoes, and then we can start eating. Now I want to show you something else. I have 3 lovely platters here. Now my friend Anita makes those, and I'm going to ask the cameraman here, which one of these should we serve our roast on tonight? 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3? 3 it is. There you go, courtesy of my friend Anita. All right, so the roast is done. The sauce has reduced, and I'm just going to do one more round of scraping to not waste any of these really good bits. I'm going to take the roast out and put it on this beautiful platter. And I'm just going to put a little bit of foil over top to tint it so that it can just settle down for a few minutes. Now is pour all these really mushy cooked vegetables into a sieve. So all I do now is I take my trusty spoon and mush it all through the sieve. And it goes through it really quick because it is just that soft. I lift it up a little bit, then you can see how this See all this stuff? And then what comes out here, that you want in your sauce. So I'm just going to squish all this through, and then I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Okay? So all the vegetables are squished through the sieve, and all I do is pour it in here. So all the vegetables have been squished through the sieve, and I transferred the liquid into a pot. Now you can see the fat is swimming on top. So at this point, what you could do is, if you don't want the fat in your sauce, and a lot of us don't like that these days, is you can just take a big spoon and you can skim it off. There's also all these gadgets out there where you can skim stuff off, but I don't have anything like that. And this works really well. You can just sort of, see that? You can just skim the fat off the top. I wouldn't skim it all off, because a little bit of fat in your sauce kind of gives it flavor. But too much, well, we all know what that means. So there we go. I think that's good enough for me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a whisk, maybe a medium size, and I'm going to add a really nice heaping teaspoon, if I can open the jar, that is, of mustard. See? It always sticks to the spoon, doesn't it? It's hard to get off. And I just whisk that in. And look how nice and thick the sauce is. So you can now do two things. You can put it on the flame. Let me just turn the fan off, it's too noisy. You can put it on the flame now, and you can now do one of two things. You can either reduce it just by cooking it, or you can add a little bit of a slurry, which is a little bit of potato starch or cornstarch or even just flour mixed with cold water to thicken it. I'm just going to let it sit here on a low flame once it comes to a boil, and let it reduce for a little bit. You could also add some white wine to it, and then you need to taste it to see if you need some more salt and pepper. So now our pork roast is ready, our mashed potatoes are ready, and our gravy is ready. So let's plate it. For myself, I would love the end piece. Yeah, I think that's good for now. And then I'll take a nice scoop of mashed potatoes. Ooh, I like mashed potatoes. I'll take a slotted spoon for that. Carrots and peas. And the pièce de résistance is the sauce. And I wish you could taste that. It is just so good. And look how thick it is. And yet I added no starch. No flour, no slurry, nothing. And I'll put it over here and over there. There you go. Guten Appetit.